Hello.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, great. So now I just want to introduce you, Doron. Doron from Israel, and he's an expert in knowledge management as well. I know Doron, you are very busy all these days, but finally, I thank you very much for yourself to commit your time on this. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. I know you're very, very busy for this time, but I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. So actually, Doron will give us a sharing about his studies on how to measure the ROI on TKMs. I think which is the most interesting part. Many people want to know the TKM management, because otherwise we talk about TKM management. How is it really worth doing that or not? I think afterwards, Doron will give us a new view about this. Okay, let's welcome Doron. Welcome. Thank you, Doron.
Thank you very much. So I will share my screen. We'll go through a few different slides that will speak about how we can measure an ROI and the total economic impact of knowledge management. So by definition, it's not an exact science, but I'm sharing today some of those methodologies and areas that we can grasp, and also that importance of trying to convert that tacit knowledge into explicit knowledge within organizations. So let's just start at the beginning and speak about some of those key challenges that we're looking to resolve through knowledge management. So implementing processes and technology to transform knowledge being retained by a few individuals or even one person to make that accessible for all, which is the goal. So the main challenges, if we break them down into these three areas, are that there's so much information and it's very difficult to get to the right answer. Now, if we take a look at the picture here is somebody going into a library and needing to use the ladder to find the right book. But think about that, that's when it's already recorded, it's already written down. Think about taking that challenge a stage further where it's not even in the library, but I need to go around and speak with the different people that are maybe sitting in the library, maybe not. And we need to find who knows that information, who has that answer, who could share it with us. So it's really, really difficult to get to the right answer. So we need to make that transformation to bring that information so it's readily available, and not only that we have the knowledge readily available, but we can get to a specific answer. So not just being able to find a document, not being able to find a file that has 25, 30, 50 pages that we need to scroll into and look for the section that we're requiring for the specific activity at hand, but being able to find that specific answer for that moment in time. Secondly, getting there at the right answer so quickly and easily. Fine, if we have all the time in the world, we can find out anything that we need. We can do some research, we could study, we could go to university, we can learn anything, but we don't have time. Everyone is under pressured situations to get the information that they need quickly and easily. And then the third area that's also really, really important is having the right sets of information for the right audiences. Different teams within organizations need different sets of information, different perspectives. If we're thinking about a traditional use case of a call center, if I'm taking the role as a salesperson, I need different information than if I'm taking the role as the engineer. So the information that's presented and available to me needs to be different in order that I can share that information over to the end customers, for example. And this is a classic use case of how we can leverage that tested information. If we take a use case, for example, of roadside repairs. So organizations where they have thousands of roadside patrol teams that need to fix cars at the side of the road, vehicles at the side of the road. So in that situation, you have a few experts that know specifically about Land Rovers or Jaguars, and they are the brains, but they don't know that they're going to be getting a Jaguar or Land Rover today. Maybe they'll be getting a different car. Maybe they'll get a Mercedes or a BMW. So how is it that the organization can make sure that they're storing the right information for those use cases, but also, once they have that information, make that accessible to the people that need them at that moment in time? So these are the challenges that organizations need to resolve. And that's what a lot of the sessions that we've we've had today and that we're continuing to have within this forum are speaking about how is it that we can capture that tacit knowledge within the organizations and make that something actionable that we can then resolve these challenges. If we take it a stage further, it's also important that there is that accessibility to that tacit knowledge across all of the different touch points. So if we're thinking about an organization that maybe has contact centers, call centers, digital channels, websites, bots, portals, shops and branches, maybe actually front-facing areas where customers can come and speak with an employee. Distributed workforce, teams that are out and about, that are on site, that are working from home, the office, that need to have information. Having that accessibility to both the tacit and explicit knowledge is critical for an organization's success, because the worst thing that can happen is that this knowledge is either missed, so it's only retained by a certain individual and nobody quite knows how to get to that information, or if they do, it's a long process to get there. Or it's fragmented, and that you have multiple different silos within an organization for storing the information about processes or plans or procedures or hints and tips and how-tos, and that you're creating those sets of knowledge articles multiple times over. You're creating that information for those different touch points and channels rather than centrally for an organization, which is completely inefficient at best, and maybe inefficient and erroneous, that you're making mistakes because certain information is updated, other information is not. Certain teams have managed to find the subject matter experts, the tacit knowledge owner, and other teams have not, and they've tried to create this information themselves. So it's really critical to have that underlying single source of truth across an organization to make sure that there is success. Now let's speak about how we can measure some of those benefits of knowledge management. So in order to be able to measure those areas and those benefits of knowledge management, are we able to come to that place to make an ROI, to understand how is it that we're going to make a financial understanding of the impacts of implementing a knowledge management solution and methodology. And we can break these down into these tangible and intangible benefits. So this is based off some research that was conducted by Gartner, where we take these 4 different use cases. So call center agents or web chat, virtual assistants, self-service portals. If we're able to centralize these use cases, these touch points with a knowledge management platform and methodology, then we can receive these tangible, measurable benefits, and also these intangibles, these unmeasurable benefits that are really powerful for an organization. So let's go through a few of these that we can see here. So the very core areas of knowledge management are really shown clearly in this first box on the top left-hand side, the tangible benefits from the call center agents. And these are applicable for multiple use cases within organizations. So that reduction in the time required to complete work, that people can get to the information, the knowledge that they require quickly and easily, so that they can do their jobs more efficiently. This has tremendous value if we're talking about call center use cases. That will be handling time. If we're talking about generally within organizations, that could be interaction time, or it could just be reducing that time spent for employees looking and searching for information on a day-to-day basis. There have been multiple pieces of research about this, that people on average spend 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, depending on the surveys that you see, looking for information. If we can centralize that, if we can capture the tacit knowledge, the explicit knowledge together, then we can make that profound reduction in the time required to complete work. Reduction in errors, making sure that people are using the right and accurate latest information, not what they remember. And then we can also have a huge benefit in terms of the onboarding and the training time of new employees. Agents is the example shown here, but this could be across the board, that we can reduce the time required for people to memorize and to learn information, and replace that with the ability to find the information when you need it, as opposed to being prepared for all of the eventualities in advance. So empowering people that can find knowledge content at the moment that it is needed within an organization and within a different task or use case. If we're speaking about some of those intangible areas, then we can break these down, as we see here, into a few different domains. Number one, increasing the productivity, that people can handle more tasks, more activities, either in parallel or near parallel, because they are more able to do these tasks because they don't need to be experts all the way, but they can tap into the expert knowledge within an organization. More than that, new information, updates, changes, ideas that are found can be more easily disseminated across an organization. Once knowledge is found, once knowledge is known, once we can grasp that tacit knowledge, transform that into something actionable, consumable, then we're able to make sure that those ideas, those sets of information can be more easily spread across the organization. And that increases credibility to make sure that the right information, the powerful information, make your teams, make your employees, make your ambassadors look experts. And then this goes into providing those consistent responses to your customers, to your partners, that everybody is sharing over the right, accurate information. If we look at a few other areas that we can see here, we can enable organizations to be able to take on multiple tasks at the same time, reduce the time, sharing back information, making sure that the same level and quality of responses are provided. So rather than relying on the language skills of the employee that's replying to a customer, for example, these can be predefined based on the knowledge that's being prepared. Can be able to bring on and onboard new channels, new tools and technologies, as that information, that knowledge can be reused across other channels and other tools and other systems. Once you have that codified, once you make that into that single source of truth, which we mentioned a few times, gives you the ability to have that high quality of predefined responses and not having to recapture information again for different channels, that you have that one source that's available across the organization. Can also give you the ability to serve in multiple languages, because you can have translation services, translation tools running on that knowledge as well. So it can really empower your organizations. So if we're talking about some of the ways that we can measure the impacts of knowledge management, one of the great ways of doing that is leveraging some of those core approaches that we can take from different analysts, different research that's been undertaken. And one such example is the Forrester Tei Report. So this is a report where Forrester interviews different organizations, their customers, to try and understand what are those areas being where organizations have seen both that impact that can be measured, so quantified benefit, but also those unquantified benefits, and primarily focusing on those quantified benefits to be able to present what is the value for an organization. So how is it that they can see that return on investment based on the savings that they are achieving as an organization through the implementation of knowledge management, again, technology and processes methodology, together with the reduction in the costs that they have by virtue of these adjustments and implementations. And here we can see across a 3-year period, based on this report, these are some of those key areas. So reducing handling time for our employees when we're looking at a call center use case, so reducing the handling time by 18%, reducing the digital channel times of handling by 25%, making sure that the employees have access to all of the knowledge content that they require quickly and easily and can be reused, and reducing that onboarding time by 75%, making sure that employees can go straight to their job, that you have that knowledge that you require for your job available, and you can search and find it when you need it, rather than memorizing, rather than retaining that information. Because there's been so much research about this, that when you retain information as part of a training program, it's great that you have that knowledge in the top of your head. Maybe it takes a bit of time to get there, but you have it there. However, the problem is that you ask somebody a question based on that knowledge, and if they're a good student, if they're a good learner, they know the answer. And then you ask them a question, okay, how certain are you that this is the answer? And they'll say 100%. I know this, I learned this, it's in my memory, we're good to go. The problem is that that was the right answer. It changed. So the minute that you're relying on those kind of processes within an organization, not only does it take the training time much longer, but it also leaves organizations susceptible to sharing inaccurate information because those answers have changed and adapted, and people are so confident with what they've retained that they don't check and they don't follow those updates that come, those changes. And that could be powerful, important changes to processes, procedures, for example, which leave an organization open to legal action. It could be just that they're providing poor customer experience, or somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. Let's also speak about some of those unquantified benefits that we also see through this study. So reducing the escalations, empowering people to find the information that they can go and search and find more details and go further down a process without needing to turn to a colleague. And that's become increasingly important. Right now, when people have moved away from working within their office environment, where they have a colleague that they can, tap on the shoulder or ask a question to, that environment for many people doesn't exist anymore, or maybe exists only 3 days a week. What about the other 2 days a week when you don't have that environment? And maybe those 2 days a week, you are completely isolated. Maybe those 3 days a week when you're in the office, you don't have the colleague that you need next to you because their hybrid work scheme is different. So how is it that you can reduce those escalations, reduce that reliance on your colleagues? And it's only through having centralized knowledge management. The ability to maintain knowledge is also really critical for organizations. So it's not just about having a change in terms of the approach, but also having a change that knowledge can be captured and maintained effectively and easily. And it's really important that this isn't just left as, say, an IT role within an organization that requires coding or programming to make those adjustments or make those changes. It needs to be very much that whoever within the organization, whether that be an IT expert or whether that be a business expert, can make the changes and updates to all of the knowledge content that they require. Employee satisfaction. This is really, really important. Making sure that people feel comfortable, that they feel good in the roles, in the activities that they need to undertake so that they can get the information that they need. And when they can, they'll feel good, they'll feel confident, and they'll feel happy with their role and with the ability to serve their customers, their partners, or whatever activity that they need to undertake within their job. And then finally, here to speak about the brand reputation, making sure that organizations can reflect their brand as they would like, that they're providing a high quality level of service, of knowledge, of treatment to their employees, of behavior towards their customers. And that's really critical. And that's where knowledge management comes in. So if we take a look at just focusing on these 3 quantified benefits, this report showed that just over a 3-year period, we can see from a sample organization, a return of 269%, that return on investment. So very powerful. For the example that we'll speak about here, that calculates to a $2.2 million return in that period. So how is it that we can make this calculation? So these are some of the key attributes that were taken into consideration. So we're speaking about a reasonably sized organization, so $1 billion of revenue, where they had 2,000 call center representatives. And some of the key areas that we're going to come back to are these numbers here. So handling over 3.5 million calls per year. And the duration of a call is 6 minutes and 19 seconds. Also handling digital interactions. And this equates to 2.1 million interactions per year and over a period of 9 minutes 20 on average. Multiple systems, different integrations, different divisions within the organization, and also a high degree of seasonality, turnover, and that's really critical for organizations as well. So it's great that you have experts within your organizations, but you also need to be able to support those areas within an organization, within a business, where there's a high degree of churn and turnover. So if we look at the ability to reduce the handling time within organizations, here we can see that impact. So as this organization, they managed to reduce their handling time from 6 minutes, 19 seconds to 5 minutes, 12. So that's an 18% reduction. We're talking about over a minute. Think about that as a customer, that you're saving 1 minute of your time, that you're speaking with somebody about something that you don't need to be on the call for, because they can handle this much, much quicker. So this on its own equates to a 1.2 million saving over a 3-year period. And this is based on that 3.6 million calls and that reduction in the duration. So here we can see the example for one of those years, and then we have the experience over the other two years as well, which is why we see the 1 year savings around 1 million, and then as the organization gets up to speed, there's a different savings over each one of those years. We're talking about digital channels. So here we can see nearly 2 minutes of savings. So reducing digital channels handling time from 9 minutes 20 to 7 minutes. Again, empowering the team that they can access the knowledge, that they can reuse that knowledge, that they're not needing to think and type out the answers, but they can capture or rely on that captured knowledge and bring that directly to customers, partners, or any kind of interaction where knowledge is required. So this equates to a 25% reduction. And we can see that power here. So by the third year, organizations are able to save 1.2 million a year on year, based on where they were starting from. So huge, powerful financial impact for an organization. And then the onboarding of new staff. So in this example, they were able to reduce their onboarding time from 4 hours to 1 hour, so a 75% reduction. So I think that this is a slightly unique kind of use case in terms of their onboarding time being really quick. And the reason is, for this organization, their onboarding time means not necessarily proficiency to handle a call completely alone, but the ability to start answering a call in a shadowing kind of environment, so working together with another colleague. But for many organizations, we've seen experiences with 50% and more in terms of the reduction on the onboarding time. That whole experience that we've mentioned a few times during this presentation, the saving of the time in the classroom, teaching specific areas of knowledge, to empowering people to be able to find that knowledge. And what's more, it doesn't mean if you have the right technologies, if you have the right tools, you don't need to train somebody how to search, how do they type in, which keywords do they need to use? No. If you have the right technology, a user can go into their technology and start searching. They'll receive suggestions. They'll receive the answers based on their profile, based on their role, based on their needs for knowledge. And they'll be able to find that information with very limited, if no training required on the platform as well. They need to understand their role. What is their purpose within the organization? Why is it that they need knowledge? And when will they need knowledge? And what are the kinds of activities that they undertake? And find it all directly within the knowledge management solution. So in this example, we can see it's a relatively flat kind of reduction in terms of short period of time to a very, very short period of time. For other organizations, when you're looking at a 3-month onboarding time, then you can have really profound savings, which will be far, far higher and far more valuable for an organization. Again, if we're going back to that same point in terms of the onboarding time, as well as the churn within the organization. So organizations where they have a high degree of adjustment and change within their team, then this can be super, super powerful. So here we can see how, in this example, those areas are broken down, but we see that in different organizations, it could be changed in terms of the ratio, that maybe a call center is less important channel for an organization. Maybe the digital channel is also less important. And the entire benefits are purely on the onboarding and the training time of new staff, because the use case is not maybe customer facing, it's not customer service, but it's internal usage of that knowledge content for employees, in which case all of the benefits will be seen on the training area, and the training area will be much, much higher. So it can be a single portion of these areas that we're speaking about today, or it could be a composite, an area like we're seeing here, where we're talking about an enterprise kind of deployment, where we see multiple different dimensions that are critical in terms of the organization experiencing huge potential and growth with their ROI. And we mentioned these before as well, speaking about those unquantifiable benefits. So there's a few that we spoke about. There's many, many more. So it really depends on the specific needs, the requirements within an organization in terms of understanding what else could be seen from those benefits. If we're talking about tacit knowledge, so many benefits in terms of retaining that information before that information leaves the organization. That's a really difficult one to measure, but it's so, so valuable. When we're talking about the life scales and sizes of organizations, so that proportion of employees that are coming near to the ends of their career and how much knowledge that they have, that unquantifiable benefit for retaining and storing and building that knowledge within the organization is huge. And that's another area that also must be taken into consideration, specifically when we're speaking about tacit knowledge. So I come to the end of my time. So I'd like to give a big thank you for all the organizers for preparing this, for putting up with me, not necessarily sending all of the details in time, but making sure that we were ready and set up for a really great session. I'm really pleased to take part of this forum, and excited for the next sessions, excited for the in-person events that will be coming soon as well in 2023, and really feel free, anybody that would like to ask any questions, you can reach out to me directly. Here's my email address. You have my details on LinkedIn. If anyone would like to know specifically about the technology as well, then you can have a look at the KMS Lighthouse website as well, which is the company that I work for, which has developed this really powerful enterprise knowledge management solution. So thank you.
Thank you, Doron. Thank you. Thanks. This is really a very good sharing about how we